Hey everyone, this is Andrew Berman from National Mortgage Professional. You're watching Mortgage Leadership Outlook, where we go live every Wednesday with the biggest leaders in the mortgage business, whether they're leaders of production, leaders of the largest lenders. Today, we have a production beast in Felisha Junge. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay,
With
I was nervous. I was nervous about that.
But very enthusiastic. I appreciate that.
How can I not be enthusiastic when I'm actually talking to someone who does 90 loans a month with only one assistant, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's amazing. We're going to get into that. I want to understand really how that's possible that you could do, 90 loans a month where listen, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. I mean, most originators, putting like this year and last year aside, if you did 90 loans, you're considered actually, kind of top of your game. I mean, people would hire you all day. So you're doing that in a month. And people say actually, well, he works at the credit union, but they'll learn actually that this is all self-generated for the most part. These are all your contacts, people you've done business with before, and just because you've got this local name in the business. But before we go into that, before we talk about your systems and understand actually, exactly how you're doing so many loans, let's talk about the history. So let's bring it back actually, to how you actually got into the business. So I remember actually, we talked a little bit about this. You got into consumer finance. So talk to us a little bit about how you got brought into the mortgage business.
Okay, so I worked at MCI actually, outbound sales. When MCI was cool before they went bankrupt.
Yeah,
and
I had a T1 from them, so I know exactly.
Yeah, I probably sold it to you.
Probably.
No, so
I got to talk to you about that, but.
No, so I actually started there, and then they went through the whole bust thing, and so Household Finance was hiring. I don't know if you guys remember those guys, but so again, the same principle where you'd pick up the phone, start calling and selling these high priced loans. But it's kind of where I got my start, and then I kind of just figured out that I was really good at it, and it was easy. So then eventually I worked myself into actually like a true bank or mortgage place after that. So
interesting. Now, do you feel like actually you found your calling? Like when you were doing the consumer finance, when you were working at Household, did you feel connected to the process then? Did you feel like, hey, this is it, I found it? Or was it later in your career that you're like, oh yes, this is it?
Yeah. So I feel like I really kind of felt at home here. I've been here for 15 years at GreenState. I actually started in a different market. So I was in a market in Iowa City, which is where home of the Hawkeyes, you guys. So if you're a Hawkeye person or Big Ten, yeah, exactly. So I started down there, and then I actually restarted up in Cedar Rapids, which is like a 30-minute north commute. So I've started over in another market, and that happened about in 2010. We weren't in this market at all, and so GreenState allowed, or at the time it was the University of Iowa Credit Union, but they moved me into the new market, and so I started my clients from scratch at that point too. So, so it's been good though, and I feel like just the nice part with working with a place like where I'm at, so we're the top lender in the state now, but we weren't at the time of me starting here. But we, over 15 years, we've had a lot of growth. We're in a lot of different markets, just GreenState in general. But I love the fact that I can offer awesome products, but also, be part of a bigger picture too.
So now 2010, mortgages were blamed for the collapse of the world. 2010 was a difficult time to be in the mortgage business.
Yeah.
And here you go in a completely brand new market did you know anyone in
No. Well, no. I mean, maybe like a handful of people, but my husband was from the area, so I was like, well, we'll just move up here and try to, make a move. And so, so I came up north and started doing the same thing I did, down south and just started knocking on people's doors, and especially realtors, the realtor contacts. So started out with a couple of the really top agents. And then once I got their trust, then I could kind of build off of that, talking about product and what we offer, and going from there. So.
Okay, so 2010, you've got, you moved to this new market, you got a blinking cursor, so like there's no business there. You're like, I got to just find the business. And yeah, I'm sure actually some deals sometimes come in through the bank, but for the most part, you are 100% or almost 100% self-generated. So you got to go out there and find, because you only eat what you kill. What was that dialogue when you first, so 2010, you're walking into a real estate agent's office, trying to get their business. You're new to the market. No one knows you. You've got no reputation. What do you say?
Well, so at that point, I was like one of the top still, like I was in the top echelon for a while in the state. So I just sold myself like, hey, I've been doing this for a really long time. I understand what you're trying, the products. I understand how to get your clients into homes, and just having that constant conversation. The weird thing is, when we came into the market, we had a different approach than most places. So before, they used to charge origination fees. It was just like it was a common thing. Like they'd automatically charge 1%. Yeah. And a lot of companies now have gotten rid of that. And so we came into the market with a different philosophy where we wouldn't charge people. And so having that different philosophy is an easy opening conversation, and then just kind of, obviously progressing from there.
Interesting. So you led with your value as an experienced originator. Yeah. You talked about, how, listen, we're not charging origination fees.
Right.
And that's actually, how you got in the door.
Right. Exactly. And then it was easy. I mean, it's not easy, but it's like, even now, I still have to go out and make sales calls. So I wouldn't have to necessarily, but I don't feel like I would be doing myself a service by not making those. So right now, while it's busy, like this week, I've taken a couple people out. And then last week I took a couple agents out, and just, just talking about how their business is going and going from there too. So, it's a constant, just knocking, like literally, hey, who else can I talk to, and getting in front of people.
Yeah. So, what does your elevator pitch sound like? So if you just, let's say we're at a networking event, and hi, I'm so-and-so, top real estate agent, never met me. What do you say to me to get my attention?
Hey, my name's Felisha, and I love doing mortgages, and I'm really good at creative financing. And I kind of leave it at that. I don't know. I don't know why. I have a really easy time talking to people too, which I ask a lot of questions, which is different than most people. Yeah. I'm here to listen versus just, do you know what I mean? Like I listen to people more than I'm talking, if that makes sense. So by asking those questions, I can figure out more about what they're trying to do, and then I can kind of position myself around them, if that makes sense.
100%. Isn't it? I guess Dale Carnegie that said people that like people who are interested and not interesting, and right. Just yeah. So I love that. So you ask questions. You just try to find what do they really want, and interesting.
And honestly, it's pretty easy with agents. The one thing they want is to close, right? Like, that's what it comes down to, is closing and making sure you make the process as smooth as possible. So it's a very easy, if you think about it from their perspective, it's an easy sale. Hey, Andrew, are you still there? I don't know. As far as other things that I'll kind of go into kind of what I talk to people about as well. The other thing I kind of focus on is when I'm having the conversation with the realtors, especially, is I really enjoy making sure somebody's credit and debts are all in line as well. So, I'm taking a look at the big. I just kept talking, Andrew. I didn't know where you went, but I was like, keep talking.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah. So by the way, if we ever lose our connection, just keep talking. I don't know actually.
Okay. I was like, yeah. No, you're fine. So no, I was just saying that, like, as far as like debt, like I'm really good at like trying to make some or help somebody get in a better financial position. I think some mortgage lenders are just going to be order takers, right? Like they're going to come in and they're going to be like, okay, I got 20% down. Okay, let's do like a conventional loan. But then they've got like, $30,000 in credit card debt. And so I think you, as somebody who really understands the profession or gets like people and just like how you can help somebody, is talking through that with people. And sometimes like nobody wants to sit down and say, like nobody wants to talk about their credit card debt, right? Like everybody hates that, right? But for me, it's like, okay, how can I make your life better? How can I make your life easier? And so digging deeper is such a crucial part of actually being somebody who's like really good at their job. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah. So, and it's the fact that you're not looking for a transaction right there. You're looking to help them.
No.
Yeah. So
And
now,
they'll come back. They'll come back.
Yeah.
They always they will trust you to continue to come back, even if they make mistakes, right? Or if they do something weird with their credit, they're going to trust you to help them, guide them in the right direction. So like even here, like I do get some leads from the bank. Yeah, that's just going to come with just what it is, right? Like, cause I work at a credit union, right? And we're really good at what we do, but I bring in a lot of business too. Like I know that I can sit here and say that I help our branch grow. And so I get car loan calls. Like on a Saturday, I'll have city call and they need a car loan, and transferring them over to somebody here that needs, you know what I mean? Because they want a car loan right now and they're on the lot. So they'll call on my cell phone, and they just, if you can create that type of relationship with your membership or your clients, you're going to be like, you're just going to be good at what, you're just going to continue to get that business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally does. Now, do you find that there are people that will start doing business with the credit union through being introduced through you?
Oh yeah, and that's our goal. I mean, it should be our goal, right? Like we want them to have. I mean, I always tell people, I'm like, not a transaction. That's part of the reason I want them to come to me too. Is like it's not just a transaction. Like I've seen people like. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years, so I've seen people who've had, a couple kids later and they're moving into a bigger home, or now their kids are out of the house and they're downsizing and they're trying to figure out, hey, how do we utilize our 401k and our IRAs to make sure we don't get taxed heavily, and we need to like increment that in so that we're not getting taxed. And I'm trying to set up the goal long term, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. It's having that the asking questions, which lead to actually, to creating this plan and helping them implement the plan, even if it means that today we're not getting a mortgage. It even means actually at some time in the future. Yeah. So now, do you actually help clients? So if they have a ridiculous amount of credit card debt, do you help them restructure the debt if they're not even mortgage ready, and work with them on a program to get them mortgage ready?
Yeah, so like we have personal bankers, or like what we call AEs here, and so I have somebody who works directly. So I have two AEs actually that work directly on my team, and that's kind of their goal. So my goal is to sit down, go through credit report. How can we, what's going on? Are the credit card payments being made? How can we restructure that debt? Or even if they have poor credit. I mean, honestly, we've had people who've come in here who have had 550. I just had one that had 550 credit score. We just tweaked some things and they came in like, 3 months later and they're buying a house now. So the goal is always to try to get somebody into a home. I mean, and I'll also get them like their credit score up, because long term, it's the best thing for them, But sometimes, just depending on the person, and if they're willing to help themselves, then we also willing to help them,
Fantastic. So now, do you have actually any kind of buyers that you particularly like working with that, seem to do really, really well with you? I mean, when you're doing 90 loans a month, you're handling just about everyone.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is there anything actually that you're an expert in, or that you get more satisfaction, or?
I really love, so this is really probably, so I do love first-time home buyers. I think everybody would say, hey, I love first-time home buyers, right? I do love them. But I would say also I'm really good at getting somebody into investment properties. So like if somebody's out trying to like utilize their debt, their assets to get more property so they can up the amount of money that they're making, or up their how much money their long-term worth per se. I'm really good at that, and just helping somebody, especially for the first one or two transactions, to try to get in a position where they're increasing their financial worth. I just understand it well enough because I've done it, so I can help kind of help people manage that and give them ideas on how to do that.
Wow, that's awesome. All right, so now one of the things I'm really curious about, because you do 90 loans a month, and a lot of your activity, it sounds like, is coaching, getting your borrowers ready to be to
Yeah.
getting a mortgage ready. What is actually, how much involvement do you have with every one of your loans? So are there certain things actually that you have to have, well, I know when we talked about you use technology to help take your application, so you're sending in the link, so they're at least
Yeah.
doing that. But what are the required things that you want to make sure that you have a part of actually the transaction? Obviously,
Yeah. So the way
yes.
so the app is really crucial because it saves me about 20 to 30 minutes of time, like especially with data entry. But the next part is actually, so that now we've pre-approved them, they're out writing the offer. So we actually email agent, let them know what they're qualified up to. But also ideally, I'd like to meet with them, especially if they're first time home buyers and they don't understand everything. Meet with them in person and go through numbers, because honestly, once you do that, you're saving yourself on the backside a lot. So we're going to sit down. I'll sit down with them. I have a spreadsheet we use. It's all very formulated. It's here's your cash to close. Here's your payments. Here's how, if the payment switches or approximately by like 10,000, here's how it changes. So we're doing that in person, and then we're having them go out and shop. Once they have a contract, at that point, then I'm calling them back. And that's, again, all me calling them back, locking the rate in, double checking their payment, making sure they're comfortable with it. And at that point, also setting the closing time. So I set closing time. Wow. And then give them that checklist of items that they need if they're missing them. With the app, it's nice because it automatically kind of documents it. It says W-2s in there. If it's not in there, it creates like a reminder for them. So they have usually, by the time Monday comes, so if I've got the contract Monday, they get hopefully a week to get all their stuff to us. And then reiterating how important that is, because it kind of helps move the process along. So, I mean, I also close, we also closing our own loans too. So I'm sitting and closing, going through the documents with them. And then that's, again, where you get the final piece, and you sit down with them and go through and say, hey, if you have anybody else that you can refer to me, can you please send them over, But I'm pretty much doing all that. And then Teresa, my assistant, she helps with making sure that the documents are actually there. So she'll send me a checklist of items if we're missing anything. And then I'll send out that email again saying, hey, just as a reminder, we do need all these documents. So please make sure you get them into us as soon as possible.
Wow. So, I mean, it's phenomenal, that you can do all that and attend closings.
Yeah.
One of the things actually that you mentioned the other day that just really just stuck with me, you said to be consistent in your approach on sales calls.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about what exactly do you mean by that?
So when you're sitting down and talking to, let's just start with the member or the client itself, right? That conversation has to, it pretty much goes the same. It usually goes the same way every time. I mean, there's a little tweak here and there. Does that make sense? If we're talking about credit or whatever it may be, it's always the same. So I feel we kind of learned this at MCI, right? You had your script, right? You call the person, this is your script, stay on your script. Don't deviate from the script, because if you deviate from the script, you might fumble, or they might hang up on you, right? It's the same thing with mortgage. If you're doing it well enough and you've got your processes down, you need to be consistent and say the same, like pretty much the same thing. I know it's boring, but like, you know what I mean? Like, this is how I do it. Cause then what happens is there's no changing. So somebody said you said something and you didn't, you never said it on your script, then okay, like, no, I did not say that. You know what I mean? But it just creates that like ease, like that, I don't know. It like becomes such a routine. Like, and that's the tough part. I feel like, especially as a lender, is you have to figure out what's working for you and what's not working for you. And if it's working, do it the same way every time. And if it's not, change it.
Yep. Oh, I love that. I love that. So one of the things that you also mentioned, you have a referral script. So you're at the closing table.
Right.
Tell us actually, what does that referral script look like? Because, I believe this is what separates, the originators from the superstar originators. I mean, obviously, it's about having a great process like you have, but it's also going beyond that and making sure actually that you leverage that great process to bring actually new business. Talk to us about your referral script.
Yeah, so it's okay. So like, we always send our docs out ahead of time. It goes through the system, right? So they get the documents ahead of time. So we're like literally just I'm going through the basics. Like, we always talk about, when's your payment due? How much is it? How do you make your payment like at close, and then how much they owe at closing. And that's pretty much what it comes down to, taxes and insurance. It's pretty simple, right? So now you're closed, they've signed all the documents. And I point out, blank ask, hey, I really enjoyed working with you guys. I really hope you guys send your family and friends to myself. And I just state it like that. And I actually include the realtor in it too. So, hey, you worked with Jeremy, or, whoever it may be, Jen, and we really love working with you, and we want to work with people who are like you. So can you please make sure to send all your family and friends over to us? Because the thing is that even the realtors don't ask, and they appreciate that I ask. So it makes them look good, but then it also makes me look good too. You know what I mean? Like, I want, and I really truly do want to work with more people like them, and I hate to say, even on some of the like bad deals, I still ask. Because I got to closing, right? So why not ask? Even if it didn't go perfect, right? We're still closing the loan, so
Yeah, they know how difficult they were. They know how hard they were to deal with. So they're very appreciative. You're asking for more people like them.
Right, exactly.
That's true.
And it's weird because like at first, like it was really awkward to even ask. Like sometimes it's like awkward, right? Like it is get really awkward. But if you just throw it in there, and it works. I mean, weirdly, like the weirdest part is I can rely on my membership to send me more. Like I was like, oh, Joe Schmo down the street told me to call you. And then the funniest thing is they'll ask all their buddies around at work or whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, I worked with her. Oh yeah, I did too. And then they start asking around, and it's like, it just like works because that also creates, again, that reputation that you're trying to uphold. And they're like, and then if they know somebody that worked with you, they're like, oh yeah, I should work with her. Does that make sense? So just
this is what happens when you're doing 100 million, in the 100 million range for 15 years. This is what happens.
Right.
This is exactly what happens. You're kind of expressing community. Everywhere the mortgage person goes.
Yeah, it's pretty fun actually.
So, kind of community activities or volunteer organizations, that you do to kind of embed yourself for the community.
Sorry, can you ask that again, Andrew? You're cutting in and out.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So I'm curious if there's any community activities that you do to volunteer things to kind of be involved in the community.
Oh yeah. So here's the other weird thing. So I have 3 kids and I like love being a mom. Like it's awesome, right? It's the best thing ever. So so I really like.
I disagree. Being a dad is the best thing.
Awful. Depends on the day, right? Let's get real here. But no, so So I really focus around my kids, and I pick things that also can involve my kids purposefully, because being a mom, like that is important to me. So if my kid, like in my volunteering, like, you know, we had a really bad storm here last year. I don't know if you guys heard about it. It's called a derecho. We never had it. Like, it's the craziest thing. So it was like a straight line wind for like 50 minutes, and it like literally tore our town apart, right? But like,
Oh my goodness.
you know, we went to some of the poorer areas, and I made my kids pick up like, you know, trees. Like that was what they had to do for a week. And you know, I'm involved. I've done March of Dimes walk. I was you know, I helped run March of Dimes last year. You know, I ran a daddy daughter dance, things that like appeal to me, where there's going to be people like me, are really important to me. So I really focus on like that type of stuff. You're probably not going to see me like on the golf court. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not a golfer. Even though I know some of my clients are, I'm like the worst golfer ever. So you probably don't want me on your team. Hardest working golfer and on the course. Okay. And that's okay. Like, they're just not going to call me to be their ringer, but it's okay.
Yeah, you're there actually when you want to close their loan or do a daddy daughter dance, but
exactly.
if you're looking actually to hit 9 holes, that's not your cup of tea.
Exactly.
And I hear that. So awesome. So it's great. So it sounds like it's being involved in the community, you know, ask a lot of questions, you know, and really actually, you know, just do what you can actually to set up good systems like you have. I really actually just think it's impressive actually, you know, that you do the volume that you do. You know, obviously, you know, Teresa's a big part of it. Oh, yeah, you've mentioned her numerous times. Yeah. So
she's my boss, so I got to keep her happy.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, Felisha, thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, you guys. Have a good day, okay?
All right, and I'm Andrew Berman, National Mortgage Professional. Thank you for watching.